Millionaire Secrets. How to Build Wealth in America. Victor Aldridge's name was whispered in every shiny corner of the city. A man with towers of glass and gold. A kingpin of luxury hotels stretching from coast to coast. His life was picture perfect. A sprawling penthouse overlooking the skyline. A calendar packed with black-tie galas and wealth that made jaws drop. But behind that flawless mask lurked shadows few dared to see. It started on a rainy Tuesday morning, the kind that draped the streets in glossy gray and kept everyone indoors. Victor was at the grand opening of his newest hotel, a gleaming beast of steel and light. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters buzzed, breathing fire about his empire's unstoppable rise. Yet, in the buzz, Victor caught a strange glance. A woman in a faded uniform, wiping tables in the far corner, her hands shaking like she had seen a storm inside her chest. Her name was Anna Fisher. No one noticed her voice until she sang, soft, raw, and heavy with sorrow. The hotel lobby grew quiet beneath the nightingale notes pouring from her lips, a haunting lullaby filled with rage and hope. Victor froze mid-conversation, a stab of something foreign twisting inside him. The twist came fast. Anna's past clawed its way forward, a long-buried secret. Her father, a man silenced by bars and lies, had been crushed into prison by one of Victor's ruthless deals. 3 years behind cold steel, crushed under forged evidence and broken promises, all to make way for a hotel expansion that carved up neighborhoods and lives. Anna's voice wasn't just music, it was a weapon wrapped in velvet. Every note veiled her fury and fierce resolve to uncover the truth. She wasn't just a housekeeper, she was the spark ready to ignite the truth's wildfire. Victor's world trembled. He was drawn in by her raw sincerity, yet terrified of the storm her story could unleash on his perfect empire. At night, his polished halls echoed with doubts, his polished smile twisting into something sharp, dangerous. He had built his fortune on secrets, but now they whispered back from the darkness, louder than ever. Anna wrestled with her burning desire for revenge against the man whose greed had stolen her family. But amidst the fire, her heart trembled, caught between loathing and a forbidden pull toward Victor, the architect of her pain. Their lives spiraled into a dangerous dance, trust mingling with betrayal, hope stitched with heartbreak. The empire's glittering edges cracked, and every choice they faced could either forge something astonishing or shatter them beyond repair. What happens when a man's empire collides with a woman's voice soaked in truth? Who wins when wealth meets justice? And what secret will break first, the empire or the heart? Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Victor stood in the soft light of the hotel lobby, his heart racing. Anna's haunting voice still echoed in his ears. It was as if she had woven a spell around him, pulling him closer to the truth, or to ruin. He glanced toward her, her hands still trembling, holding on to her song like it was the only thing grounding her amid the storm. But then a commotion broke the moment. Footsteps pounded against the marble floor. A group of men burst into the lobby, their faces filled with panic. They were hotel staff, dressed in uniforms, but there was something off about them. Victor's gut twisted. "Somebody help, it's an emergency." One of them shouted, breathless. Eyes widened around the room. Victor felt the world tilt. He stepped forward, ready to take charge, but the lead man grabbed his arm, desperation leaking from his voice. "Sir, it's Anna's father, he's here." The crowd gasped, a wave of whispers cascading through the lobby like a shockwave. Victor's stomach sank. Anna's father, the man who had been long buried under lies and betrayal, where? Victor demanded, his voice barely above a whisper. Outside, they found him. The staff member panted. In an instant, Anna's expression shifted from shock to sheer disbelief. "My father? What do you mean?" Her voice trembled, blending fear with a flicker of hope. Before anyone could answer, Victor pushed through the throng, his heart pounding in his ears. Outside, the rain fell heavier, soaking the ground. Just beyond the entrance, a figure lay crumpled at the foot of the hotel's glistening facade. Victor's breath hitched. The man was disheveled, covered in mud but unmistakably familiar. It was him, Anna's father, a living ghost emerging from the shadows of a past Victor thought he had buried. Victor moved closer, each step heavy with dread. Anna rushed past him, her eyes wide and tears threatening to spill. "Dad!" she cried, her voice cracking, the word heavy with a decade of longing. As she fell to her knees beside him, the crowd hushed. Victor felt the weight of suspicion dwelling in the air. What had he done to this man? Was he here for vengeance or truth? And then the man stirred, his eyes fluttering open, revealing the depth of pain and betrayal Victor had wrought. "Anna," he rasped, his voice weak but filled with raw emotion. "I've waited so long," but as she embraced him, Victor could see it, a flash of something in the father's eyes that sent a chill down Victor's spine. Anger, determination. No, it was darker, a flicker of possession, as if he held an unspoken power over them all. "Stop!" Victor interjected, the word escaping his lips like a bolt of lightning. "What do you want?" A smirk crept across the father's face. "You've built an empire on my pain, Victor, and now it's time for the truth to shake your foundations." Gasps erupted from the crowd, heartbeats raced. What truth? What had lain buried beneath layers of greed and betrayal? Victor felt a flood of doubt rise. Everything he thought he knew began to unravel. Anna's voice had been a warning, but now a storm loomed, and each drop carried a secret he wished had stayed hidden. Will the empire fall? Will Anna stand by her father, a choice weighed in betrayal? And what other secrets are hidden in the dark corners of Victor's life, waiting to explode? In that moment, as the man raised a trembling hand and pointed toward Victor, everything changed. There was a reckoning in the air, and the first echoes of a battle had begun. Victor felt the tremor of the crowd's gasp ripple against his skin. He could see Anna's face twisting between disbelief and desperate hope. Everything inside him screamed to run, to bury the past deeper and never let it surface again. What truth? Victor's voice cracked, shattering the heavy silence. A bead of sweat rolled down his spine as he braced for the storm. Anna's father narrowed his eyes, the light catching on something metallic in his jacket. "The truth about your deals, Victor. About the price you make others pay to keep building your empire." He leaned in, the stench of damp clothes and bitterness enveloping them both. And just like that, time seemed to freeze. The importance of the moment weighed heavily, pressing against the thrumming heartbeats echoing around them. Each second stretched painfully until it felt almost unbearable. But then, the unexpected came crashing in. A blinding light erupted from the edge of the crowd, a flash igniting the night. A deafening explosion followed, sending shards of glass and chaos into the air. The crowd erupted, a tidal wave of voices, screams, panic surging like wild horses. Victor dove toward Anna, heart slamming against his ribcage, adrenaline blasting through his veins. "Anna!" he shouted, pushing past the confusion. But she had fallen, her father's lifeless form shielding her from the worst of the blast. His body was limp, darkened by a bloodstain spreading like a terrible flower. "Get back!" he yelled to the onlookers rushing closer, trying to steal glimpses of horror unfolding before them. "Dad!" Anna's voice pierced through, choked with grief. Victor saw her hands trembling as she cradled her father, the lifeblood of their shared past spilling into the cold ground. The crowd swelled with shock. Gasps morphed into cries. The tension snapped. Victor knelt beside Anna, his senses raw, the reality of her loss crashing down like the remnants of shattered glass showering the ground. But amidst the clamor, something within him flickered. Was this really the end? Was her father, the man he had once viewed as simply an obstacle, truly gone? Something slipped into the cracks, an unshakable sense of dread mixed with an understanding. As the smoke began to dissipate, Victor caught a glimpse of a figure in the distance. A person, cloaked in shadows, watching, unmoved by the chaos. The eyes gleaming like shards of ice seemed to take in the devastation with a satisfied smirk. "Who is that?" Victor's gut twisted. A chill crawled up his spine. This was no random accident. It felt deliberate. "What?" Anna glanced up, shock plastered on her face, tears streaming down her cheeks. "That person. They've orchestrated all of this." Victor hissed, scanning the crowd, the fear creeping into his bones like a thief. But before he could react, the figure melted away into the darkness, lost amid the swirling confusion. An officer pushed through, pulling Victor back, shouting instructions into a radio. "What do we do?" Anna's voice trembled, desperation weaving through her sorrow. Victor swallowed, throat tight. "We find out who did this. But more than that, we uncover the truth about your father and our past. There are deeper connections here, Anna, darker than we ever imagined." With that certainty burning in his chest, new fear mingled with a sense of purpose. The empire, the secrets, the truth, everything had shifted. Nothing was as it seemed. Who could truly be trusted? As they pulled away from the wreckage, adrenaline fizzling against the roar of chaos around them, Victor's heart crashed with a new question. Was this the start of their own downfall, or the spark for something greater? The weight of looming secrets hung between them like storm clouds, and they were caught right in the center. Where would the next lightning strike land? Victor's heart raced, the echo of Anna's tearful voice mixing with the chaos around them. He kept his eyes on her father's still body, a grotesque reminder of all that had gone wrong. The world felt heavy, drenched in grief and uncertainty. In the distance, sirens wailed, growing closer, but nothing could drown out the storm brewing inside him. "Is he?" Anna's whisper cracked, her fingers tracing the contours of her father's face. A mix of sorrow and fury danced in her eyes, and Victor could feel her pain like a live wire. "Get back!" shouted a voice. An officer pushed through the crowd, drawing Victor's attention. "We need to secure the area. Where's the ambulance?" Someone shouted, panic rising like smoke. But before they could respond, the same figure Victor had seen earlier emerged from the shadows. This time the person stepped closer and Victor's stomach dropped. It was a woman dressed in a long dark coat, her hair pulled back tight. A flash of recognition hit him like a slap to the face. "Misty," he breathed. Misty, his first love, long thought gone and buried in a past he tried to forget. She had vanished years ago after a scandal linked to his business deals, a casualty of his climb to the top. "What are you doing here?" he gasped, feeling the world tilt on its axis. Misty's cold smile was all knives. "I've been waiting for the right moment, Victor, and it seems like the moment has finally arrived." An uneasy tension hung in the air, heavy with memories Victor thought he had buried. "This isn't the time," he insisted, glancing back at Anna, helpless on the ground, clinging to her father. "Oh, but it is, darling." Misty stepped forward, her eyes glinting with something dangerous. "You see, Anna's father isn't just some hapless victim. He's part of a much bigger puzzle, one you've been trying to piece together without even knowing it." Victor's heart plummeted. What was she saying? The crowd buzzed, growing restless, people whispering among themselves, casting glances between him and Misty. "What do you mean?" he whispered, fear curling around him. Misty laughed softly, an unsettling sound that echoed through the chaos. "He wasn't innocent in this game you're all playing," she said slowly. "He made choices too. Choices that affected lives. Your choices, Victor, just as much as his." "Stop!" he shouted, panic bubbling in his throat as the walls of his perfect world began to shake. "You don't know what you're talking about." Her expression hardened. "Oh, but I do. And you're about to find out just how deep the rabbit hole goes." She stepped back, and Victor's gaze followed her movements, adrenaline surging through his veins. With a chilling calmness, she produced a flash drive from her pocket. "This has everything. Your files, your dirty secrets, and maybe a few of Anna's father's too." "No." Victor's voice cracked. The sheer weight of possible betrayal sent a chill down his spine. Everything he had built, everything he had fought for, could crumble with one click. Anna looked up, confusion darkening her features. "What's happening?" she cried. Misty smirked, the glint in her eyes sharp as shards of glass. "Let's just say, Victor, you're not the only one with a past. And remember, those who seek revenge never forget." The urgency of the moment thickened the air. Victor's mind raced. He had to protect Anna and the fragile peace they clung to. "Misty, don't do this. We can talk," he pleaded, voice sharp with desperation. But she shrugged, indifferent to his pleas. As the crowd pressed closer, the stakes rose. What had he unleashed? What bonds would be severed? Victor felt the ground shift, and all he could see were the flickering shadows of greed and betrayal swirling around him. "Everything is about to change," Misty whispered, and with that she turned, vanishing into the surging crowd. Suddenly Victor felt the weight of the world crash down. He locked eyes with Anna, whose expression mirrored his own dawning horror. Would he lose her too? As the sirens grew louder, the question loomed larger than ever. What would be left of him when the truth finally came to light? Victor felt the weight of the world crash down. He locked eyes with Anna, whose expression mirrored his own dawning horror. Would he lose her too? As the sirens grew louder, the question loomed larger than ever. What would be left of him when the truth finally came to light? In that moment, everything changed. A rumble echoed from behind the crowd, growing ominously louder, shoving through the chaos. Victor whipped around as the ground shook, and a car careened through the entrance of the hotel, tires screeching against the marble tiles. It was a sleek black sedan, barreling toward them with no sign of stopping. "Get back!" he yelled, pushing Anna away just as the car collided with the crowd. The force of the impact sent bodies sprawling, shattering glass, and the deafening sound ripped through the air. Time froze. Victor's heart raced as he turned instinctively, shielding Anna, but the car's rear door flew open, and out stepped a woman, dressed impeccably in a white suit, hair cascading down her back. She looked poised, as if she were stepping onto a runway instead of into chaos. "Misty." Victor's voice barely carried over the chaos, but as if she couldn't hear him, she raised her hand as if commanding the room, her gaze fixed on Anna. "You're just in time for the reveal," she sang, her tone sugary and sharp. Anna's brows knitted together, shock mingling with grief. "What are you talking about? Who are you?" Before Misty could respond, Victor felt a sharp jab at his back. A man, one of the hotel staff, had a gun trained on him, frantic eyes darting between them. "Step away from her." "Wait," Victor shouted, but the tension crackled. The crowd began to panic again, voices rising, screams piercing the air. Anna's breaths came in quick bursts beside him. Suddenly Misty smiled sweetly, her voice dripping with venom. "Well, Anna, didn't you know? The truth is much more tangled than you ever thought. Your father, he's not who you think he is." "What?" Anna gasped, turning to Misty, confusion shrouding her grief. "Your father was a player in this game too, a pawn and now a casualty." Misty's smile widened, her eyes glimmering like steel. "And I'm not just here to shake up Victor's little empire. I'm here to show you how deep the betrayal runs." Victor's heart pounded wildly. Betrayal? What was she saying? How could this situation shift from tragedy to something even darker? Misty continued, her voice tantalizingly low. "You see, Anna, your father made a deal with Victor years ago, a deal sealed with blood." "What?" Anna's face turned pale, and Victor felt the weight of her disbelief. "Your father sold you to Victor," Misty said, each word landing like a gut punch. "He traded your future for profits, signing away every ounce of your freedom. That's why he's here now, and that's why you're still tied to this mess." Victor staggered back, his mind racing. It couldn't be true. Everything felt like quicksand, shifting under his feet, turning his world upside down. "No, that's not possible," he yelled, desperation rising. But even in the chaos, the look on Anna's face shifted from confusion to fury, like fire igniting a dry field. "You lied to me, Dad," she whispered fiercely, clutching her father's lifeless body. "You sold me out." The gunman's grip tightened, panic and desperation glowing in his eyes as he recognized the shift. Victor took a step closer to Anna, desperate to reach her, to pull her back from the edge of betrayal. But the ground crackled like a live wire. Misty's laughter danced through the chaos, sinister and cruel. Consider this payback for all the hurt, for all the lives ruined. The past isn't done with you yet, Victor. And now it's time to choose your side. As the crowd surged, Victor stood frozen, the threads of loyalties and truths unraveling around him. Would Anna stand with her father or against him? Anna, he called, but his words hung in the air, drowning in uncertainty. And then, out of the thrumming panic, the sound of a second explosion erupted in the distance, rattling the foundation of the hotel. A flash lit the sky, stark against the night. Victor's heart sank. What had he stepped into? What new devastation awaited them? Everything had changed, and now a choice loomed larger than ever. Would they uncover the threads of their entwined fate, or would it pull them deeper into the abyss? Victor felt the weight of the world crash down. He locked eyes with Anna, whose expression mirrored his own dawning horror. Would he lose her too? As the sirens grew louder, the question loomed larger than ever. What would be left of him when the truth finally came to light? In that moment, everything changed. A rumble echoed from behind the crowd, growing ominously louder, shoving through the chaos. Victor whipped around as the ground shook, and a car careened through the entrance of the hotel, tires screeching against the marble tiles. It was a sleek black sedan, barreling toward them with no sign of stopping. "Get back!" he yelled, pushing Anna away just as the car collided with the crowd. The force of the impact sent bodies sprawling, shattering glass, and the deafening sound ripped through the air. Time froze. Victor's heart raced as he turned instinctively, shielding Anna, but the car's rear door flew open, and out stepped a woman, dressed impeccably in a white suit, hair cascading down her back. She looked poised, as if she were stepping onto a runway instead of into chaos. "Misty." Victor's voice barely carried over the chaos, but as if she couldn't hear him, she raised her hand as if commanding the room, her gaze fixed on Anna. "You're just in time for the reveal," she sang, her tone sugary and sharp. Anna's brows knitted together, shock mingling with grief. "What are you talking about? Who are you?" Before Misty could respond, Victor felt a sharp jab at his back. A man, one of the hotel staff, had a gun trained on him, frantic eyes darting between them. "Step away from her." "Wait!" Victor shouted, but the tension crackled. The crowd began to panic again, voices rising, screams piercing the air. Anna's breaths came in quick bursts beside him. Suddenly, Misty smiled sweetly, her voice dripping with venom. "Well, Anna, didn't you know? The truth is much more tangled than you ever thought. Your father, he's not who you think he is." "What?" Anna's face turned pale, and Victor felt the weight of her disbelief. "Your father was a player in this game too. A pawn and now a casualty." Misty's smile widened, her eyes glimmering like steel. "And I'm not just here to shake up Victor's little empire. I'm here to show you how deep the betrayal runs." Victor's heart pounded wildly. Betrayal. What was she saying? How could this situation shift from tragedy to something even darker? Misty continued, her voice tantalizingly low. "You see, Anna, your father made a deal with Victor years ago, a deal sealed with blood." "What?" Anna's face twisted in disbelief, emotions swirling like a tempest. Misty laughed softly, an unsettling sound that echoed through the chaos. "He wasn't innocent. Your father signed away your future, Anna. He traded you for profit, and now you see the cost of that betrayal." Victor staggered back, his mind racing. It couldn't be true. Everything felt like quicksand, shifting under his feet, turning his world upside down. "No, that's not possible," he yelled, desperation rising. But even in the chaos, Anna's face shifted from confusion to fury as she grasped the gravity of Misty's words. "You lied to me, Dad," she whispered fiercely, clutching her father's lifeless body. "You sold me out." The gunman's grip tightened, panic and desperation glowing in his eyes as he recognized the shift. Victor took a step closer to Anna, desperate to reach her, to pull her back from the edge of betrayal. But the ground crackled like a live wire. Misty's laughter danced through the chaos, sinister and cruel. Consider this payback for all the lives ruined. The past isn't done with you yet, Victor, and now it's time to choose your side. As the crowd surged, Victor stood frozen, the threads of loyalties and truths unraveling around him. Would Anna stand with her father or against him? Anna, he called, but his words hung in the air, drowning in uncertainty. And then, suddenly, a blinding flash illuminated the space just outside the hotel, followed by the sound of sirens blaring in a treacherous harmony. People turned to look, stunned as the ground shook again, this time a tremor that felt alive beneath their feet. "Misty," Victor murmured, now sensing something darker at play. Then it happened. A figure emerged from the shadows of the raging storm, moving with a sinister confidence. Victor squinted to see, his heart pounding. It was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, stepping into the chaos with a chilling calmness. CEO Aldridge. He bellowed and the crowd hushed. "Misty," the man called out, eyes glinting with familiarity. "You brought me a gift. But didn't you want to share? Aren't we family?" Victor's gut twisted. Family. The words hung heavy, and dread washed over him like cold water. Misty's expression shifted into something that resembled glee, revealing an unexpected bond that shattered everything Victor thought he knew. "What's happening?" Anna screamed, confusion washing over her face. The man's identity blurred in Victor's mind as new calculations ran wild through his brain. "This isn't just about your empire, Victor," the man stated, stepping closer. "It's about everything you've kept buried, and now it's about to come crashing down." Before Victor could react, the man reached into his coat and pulled out a flash drive, not unlike the one Misty had shown earlier. "Shall we see what comes next?" The crowd stirred, whispers swirling like fallen leaves. Victor felt his heart pound in sync with the mounting threat. Everything he had built, all the secrets he had thought he could control, it was all coming undone. And in that electric instant, everything changed. Relationships reeled, alliances fractured, and the very foundation of Victor's life began to crumble, revealing a truth buried so deep it would shock everyone involved. What had started as a night of glamour morphed into a tempest of betrayal, and now the price of loyalty was about to be paid. Would they all survive the reckoning that had just begun? As the figure approached, the chaos around them intensified. Sirens wailed, drowning out half-formed words of confusion and anger. Victor felt every heartbeat drum in his chest like a war cry. He locked eyes with Anna, whose wide gaze flitted back and forth between him and Misty, shock morphing into something darker. "Who are you?" Anna demanded, her voice quivering with a mix of fear and newfound strength. The man in the white suit stepped forward, a smile cutting across his face. "You'll find out soon enough, Anna. They say the past has a way of catching up with us." His tone was dripping with malice, something Victor couldn't shake off. "Misty, what's he talking about?" He was losing control, and he could sense the crumbling facade around him. "Victor, you really don't get it, do you?" Misty replied, her voice cool yet piercing. All of this, is just the beginning of a game that's been in play long before you ever stepped into the ring." "Game," Victor echoed, his nerves pulling taut. This was no game, lives were at stake. "What do you—" But before he could finish, the man raised the flash drive high. "This holds everything, each dirty little secret, every lie you spun like a web to trap everyone. And here's the shocker. You're not the only one with skeletons in the closet." Suddenly, the electric atmosphere shifted. A deafening crack disrupted the tension, an explosion stemming from the entrance, sending pieces of debris flying through the air. Bodies screamed, scrambling for safety. "Get down!" Victor shouted, instinctively pulling Anna to the ground just as the crowd erupted into chaos. Through the billows of dust and panic, something shifted, something primal. The gunman shouted, his voice buried in the frenzy. But Victor's eyes were locked onto Misty. When the smoke cleared amid the frantic movement, Victor saw a figure lying on the ground, motionless. It was the gunman, a piercing bullet wound in his chest. The realization hit harder than any blast. The shock spread through Victor's body, igniting him with terror. Who shot him? Anna shrieked, her hands trembling as she released her father, stepping towards the lifeless body. Misty backed up slowly, her gaze darting around the frantic crowd. "I didn't. It wasn't me," shouted someone from the side, another hotel employee, eyes wide as they pointed at a different figure. "It was him, the manager, he did it." Victor's heart raced. The chaos hadn't just descended, it had reached an unimaginable peak. The hotel manager stepped forward, fear dancing behind his eyes. "We had to protect ourselves. You don't know what you've stumbled into." "Protect?" Anna shouted, now breathless with a cocktail of emotions. "From what?" The manager hesitated, digesting the energy crackling between the two women and Victor. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. You want to know the truth. The reality complicates things. Anna, your father wasn't the victim he pretended to be." "What?" Victor couldn't believe the words tumbling out like revelations. Anna turned to him, confusion swirling in her wide eyes. At that moment, the body of Anna's father started to twitch beneath the weight of disbelief. Every eye turned, including Victor's, wide with shock. Ghostly gray skin shook as the man gasped and began to rise, eyes flickering with life. "You thought I was dead," he croaked, anger painted in his voice. "I was never gone. I've been here all along, watching, waiting." Silence fell. A stillness so profound enveloped the chaos, making hearts race in crescendo around them. Victor's breath caught in his throat. Anna gasped, stepping back as tears streamed down her cheeks. "But Dad, you were in prison." "No, Anna," he growled, rising fully now, anger burning in his gaze. "I was always one step ahead." "What do you mean?" begged Anna, lost in a whirlpool of confusion. He leaned closer, voice low. "Because I made that deal, the one that tied you to Victor. But believe me, you were never just a pawn. You are the ultimate player in this game." Victor's mind raced. Every assumption, every foundation he'd built the last decade on was crumbling like sandcastles before a tsunami. "What does that mean?" He breathed, not sure he wanted the answer. Then the realization hit him like a punch. This fight wasn't only about revenge. It was about control, manipulation, and something deeper, something that could explode at any moment. The last glimmer of hope flickered. What had he unleashed? And more importantly, could anyone truly be trusted now? As the realization of Anna's father's revival sank in, confusion transformed to horror on her face. "What do you mean you've been watching?" she cried, stepping back as if his words were hot coals. Victor, breathless, could only watch as everything swirled beyond his control. "You think I disappeared, Anna?" Her father spat, anger laced in his voice. "I had to stay hidden, stay alive while people like Victor built their empire on my back. But now I own this game." "No," Victor shouted, desperation clawing at him. "You're lying, this doesn't make sense." But deep down, he felt the foundation of his life shifting beneath him. Before Anna could respond, a sudden explosion of glass shattered the air, and a second figure emerged, this time cloaked in darkness. A hooded man darted through the chaos, and before anyone could react, he lunged forward, aiming straight for Anna. "Get down!" Victor roared, diving in front of her. In that split second, adrenaline surged through him, but it was too late. The figure struck like a jagged blade, knocking Anna to the ground as he grabbed something from her pockets and bolted towards the shattered entrance. A flash drive, the very evidence Misty had warned about, was now in the hands of a complete stranger. "No, stop him!" Victor barked, racing after the fleeing figure. The crowd screeched, people scrambling in a desperate scramble, the noise swelling like a tidal wave. Victor felt his heart hammering in his chest, feet pounding against the slick marble floors as he pursued. He could hear Anna crying behind him, but there was no time to look back. His body moved on instinct. He had to get that flash drive back before everything fell apart. He burst through the entrance, the night air stinging against his skin. He spotted the hooded man sprinting into the alley, blending into the shadows. Adrenaline pushed Victor harder, faster. He had just grasped the edge of the man's coat when a blood-curdling scream split the air. This time, it wasn't from the hotel, it came from Anna. Anna! Victor's heart plummeted. He yanked back, spinning to run towards her. But before he could reach the door, a sudden force hit him from behind, sending him sprawling to the ground. "Stay down," Misty sneered. "You don't get to decide the ending." Victor struggled against her hold as the air crackled with tension. "What do you want?" He grunted, panic flooding through him. "Everything," she hissed, her eyes glinting like sharp glass. "The money, the power, but most importantly, the truth. And it starts with Anna." Just as he managed to shove her away, another shout echoed through the alley. It was Anna again. This time she was yelling in pure terror. A collective gasp erupted from the crowd inside the hotel. Victor's heart felt like it was resetting. He shot up, racing past Misty, desperate to reach Anna. He burst back inside, finding a stark silence where screams had echoed moments before. The crowd stood frozen, eyes wide. And then he saw it. A colossal figure loomed over Anna, the hooded man clutching the flash drive while her father lay on the ground, still very much alive but barely breathing. "No!" Victor roared, swallowing the lump in his throat. "Let her go." But instead of compliance, the hooded figure stepped sideways, revealing something even more shocking, a second flash drive, this one glimmering like a jewel. "This one's for you, Victor. Here's the whole story." And just like that, the room trembled. The mystery turned on its axis, layers peeling back to reveal the unthinkable. Everything they believed shifted. Victor's mind raced, questions exploding in his head. What? Then the impossible happened. Anna's father pushed himself to his feet, rage and desperation flickering in his eyes, and he lunged for the hooded man, tackling him to the ground. Enough of this charade. Victor recoiled. "No, stop." But it was too late. With a swift movement, Anna's father grasped the hooded man's throat. "You thought you could control this. I was the king long before you stepped into my game." The air chilled, the tension snapping like a taut wire. As the crowd watched, breathless, the two men struggled for dominance. The truth hung like a storm cloud, ready to unleash chaos unlike anything they had ever imagined. What secrets were about to shatter them all? Would Victor lose everything he fought for, again? As Anna screamed for her father, Victor realized that they were all caught in a battle that had only just begun, and it would change everything. Victor stood frozen as Anna's father grappled with the hooded man, the chaos of the hotel swirling around them. A primal growl echoed from Anna's father, a testament to the passion that ignited memories buried within. "You think you've won. I built this empire and I'll tear it down if I have to." "Stop!" Anna shouted. But her father was lost in his fury, hands tightening around the hooded man's throat like a vice. Victor's instincts kicked in. He didn't want Bruce, the hooded man, to die, but then again, what was the truth behind that mask? A violent struggle erupted, fists and desperation clashing like thunder in the storm. But suddenly, a flash of light burst through the chaos, blinding and bright. Victor squinted just in time to see a figure appear at the hotel entrance. The man who had crashed into the lobby, his arrival heralded by another blinding explosion. It tore through the air, sending shards of glass raining down like frozen rain. "Everybody get back!" A voice roared. Time felt like syrup, thick and dragging. As the chaos erupted again, people screamed, ducking and covering. Victor's heart raced as he spun around, his breath caught in his throat. And then, through the dust and debris, he saw Anna. She stumbled back, hands reaching for her father. "Dad, no!" The scene blurred, adrenaline triggered every instinct. But as he moved toward them, a gunshot rang out, sharp as a knife. Victor's pulse soared. Who shot? What just happened? Anna's father fell backward, free from the hooded man's grip, eyes wide with disbelief as he clutched his chest. A pool of crimson spread across his shirt, dark against the chaos. Victor felt his breath hitch. "Dad!" Anna screamed, her voice thick with anguish. She stumbled toward him, crouching beside her father. "Please stay with me." But something shifted. The truth felt murky, distorted in the violence of the moment. Victor caught the gaze of the hooded man, fury mingled with fear as he whispered urgently, "He's not the victim you all think." What do you mean? Victor yelled, heart hammering against his ribs. As the man struggled to catch his breath, he gasped, "You don't know, the deal was never what it seemed." But before anyone could respond, the man raised his hands. Suddenly, he pulled down the hood, revealing a familiar face that dropped a cold weight into Victor's stomach. Daniel. Daniel, Victor's former business partner, stood there, eyes keen and piercing. "You always were blind, Victor. This was never just about power, it was about control." "What did you do?" Victor's voice shook. The world spun on its axis, everything he thought he knew unraveling with every word. The weight of Daniel's revelation sank into the crowd, murmurs swirling like magic dust turning to ash. "All those years I played you, made you think it was all about the empire. But it was about erasing you." Stunned silence ensued. Anna's tears fell onto her father's shirt, mingling with blood, a painful, intimate mix of despair and confusion. Who are you?" Anna sobbed, her eyes wide with disbelief as her father convulsed. "I'm the reason you're here," Daniel shouted back, his voice heavy with emotion. "This was a game, Anna, one you didn't even know you were part of." "What game?" she asked, her lips trembling. But before he could answer, the air thickened with an explosive sound, and a hidden stash of explosives went off in the distance. The light blinded everyone, throwing Victor backward. Lying on the ground, he blinked through the haze, consciousness wavering. A figure loomed over him, the familiar sight of Misty. "Why?" he croaked, disbelief sweeping through him. "Why did you betray me?" She leaned down, close enough to whisper, "Because it's time for you to wake up, Victor. The truth is uglier than you could ever imagine." And then she dropped a photograph beside him, a photo that sent icy fingers of shock through his heart. It was a picture of Anna and Misty, years ago, both smiling at a family dinner. "What?" But no words came. Each shaky breath felt like shards of glass in his lungs. What if everything he believed about his life was built on lies? Was he the architect of his own destruction? The ground shook again as sirens blared outside, warning blaring like a harbinger of doom. Who could be trusted? Victor struggled to his feet, pulse pounding like a drum in his ears. As he glanced around, the wreckage of broken hearts and shattered trust loomed large. What had this storm unleashed? The answers lay just beyond reach, hidden in a fog of betrayal. Who was really on his side? And more terrifyingly, what would he have to sacrifice to discover the truth? Victor shook off the haze that clouded his mind, desperately trying to focus on the chaos unfolding around him. Shots echoed, confusion burst like fireworks, and every heartbeat pulsed with urgency. The air was thick with pain and betrayal, each face reflecting the turmoil. Anna's cries burrowed into his heart. "Dad, please." She knelt beside her father, his chest rising and falling in jagged breaths, blood pooling beneath him, a tragic reminder of the night's horrors. Her hands trembled as she gripped his, desperation pouring from her. "Stay with me." Victor's throat tightened, witnessing the torment etched on Anna's face. With a quick glance, he caught Daniel, his former partner, pressing his back against the wall, fear painted across his features as if the past had returned to haunt them all. "Daniel," Victor spat. "What have you done? This is your mess." But before Daniel could respond, Misty stepped forward, the weight of the world crashing down on her shoulders. "This is only the beginning, Victor. The truth is far grimmer than you know. It holds us all prisoner." "Shut up." He couldn't disguise the rage trembling in his voice. "You started this. Just help us." And then the chaos shifted. The hotel staff, witnessing the heartbreak and betrayal, began to stir, murmurs morphing into an uproar. What happened? Who's guilty? The crowd's energy swelled, rippling through each person like an electric current. As if pulled by an unseen thread, Anna looked back at Victor. "You promised me safety, you promised." Her voice broke, raw with hurt. In that instant, something flickered in Victor, a solid resolve igniting. He couldn't let Anna lose everything she held dear. "No more lies," he shouted, stepping forward. "We will uncover the truth together, no more secrets." Anna's father gasped, the strength in his voice flickering like a dying flame. "Victor, you have to choose wisely." His breath hitched. a visible struggle in his eyes as he attempted to connect with his daughter. In that moment of vulnerability, Victor caught a glimpse of something, fear, and a plea for redemption swirling in Anna's father's gaze. Could he possibly change? "You can't undo the past, but we can change the future," Victor proclaimed, heart racing. "But only if we stand united." Anna, tears glistening, nodding at Victor's words, pushed away her fear. "You're right, we can't let them control us anymore, but first, we must discover who's truly behind this." Misty stepped back, realizing the room's power shift. "You're making a mistake," she hissed, but the moment had shifted. They were stronger together. The crowd rallied through shared outrage, anger mingling with hope. Victor put a hand on Anna's shoulder, squeezing it tight. "We will expose the truth, no matter the cost. It's time to hold accountable those who hurt us." As the hotel's entryway cracked and the lights flickered, a sense of determination filled the air. People grouped together, murmuring and sharing their stories, the darkness retreating in the light of their collective strength. Suddenly, sirens blared outside and emergency crews arrived, sweeping through the chaos. Their presence signaled the promise of safety and resolution, the end of fear. Victor took a breath, determination settling in his chest. He looked around, not just at the chaos but at the hopeful faces that surrounded him. Anna, gathering herself, clenched her father's hand. "This isn't over. The truth will outshine the darkest secrets," she vowed, eyes fierce. Victor nodded, knowing they had a long road ahead. Together, they would confront the shadows of their past, mend the fractured pieces of their lives, and rise stronger. As they stepped forward into an uncertain future, the heartbeat of the crowd surged, echoing hope and resilience. But as Victor turned back for one last look, a figure lingered in the shadows, a ghost wrapped in mystery. Who were they? And what secrets did they hold? There was still so much to uncover, and the urgency pulsed through Victor's veins. But before he could linger on the thought, a voice broke through. "Everyone, stay alert. Don't forget, stay connected. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Click the like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the ending. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know how it ends. Now is the time to show your support. Your participation makes all the difference. Don't wait another second to share this.